So I met both of these buyers back in late 2016. Amy bought her home in early 2017, and it was right around the $220,000 price point.
All right, we are back on your Berkshire Hathaway Biweekly Podcast. Realty expert John Brodeen in the studio. How you doing today,
Hey,
John?
I'm good, John. How about you?
Good. You're looking good.
Yeah.
Feeling good?
Thank you.
Everything's groovy?
Yep, everything's groovy.
I'm glad to hear it. What do you think about that beautiful weather out there this morning? You know, they say we're going to get in the 30s today.
Yeah.
Well, then you throw in a 50-mile-an-hour wind,
Yeah.
and it sure in the heck doesn't seem like it's going to get into the 30s.
It's blowing like crazy, but seems like that happens whenever any new weather moves in.
Yeah,
maybe it's a good sign.
As long as we have some sun,
Yeah.
it'll help, but I got a feeling then tomorrow when it gets cold again, it's going to be ugly.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
well. Oh,
yeah.
well.
It was brutal last night.
I know we were talking before we went on. We always talk a little bit about what we are going to talk about, what we're going to discuss. Time in the market versus timing the market.
Yes.
And in is capitalized.
Yeah.
Explain, please.
Yes. So timing the market. There's a lot of buyers out there who think that they're going to be able to time the market. So they're going to buy when it's low, and then they think they're going to be able to sell when it's high. And a lot of times, the people who are trying to accomplish this, they end up with worse results than the people who buy whenever they need to buy and stay in the market for a long time. It's not about quick flips and trying to hit the market on a downstroke and then sell on an upstroke. It's that's minimal compared to the gains that people make when they own a home for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It's even 5's a little on the short end, but it's pretty normal for real estate to double or triple in a 30-year period of time.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you got guys that think they know how to play the market.
Yeah.
And you're a realty expert. Can you even figure out the market sometimes?
No, it's hard to know what the market's going to do. And, I can kind of see trends. I study the data on our local market a ton, and I follow, a lot of national sources, that experts who break down, make predictions, that sort of thing. But just like with anything, nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen. There's patterns, you can, it's pretty easy to predict like the seasonal pattern that happens here. That's one of the most simple things. There's patterns that involve interest rates. That's one of the things that people are talking a lot about right now, is the interest rates rising. They were as low as like 3.125 at the beginning of January. And just last week, they've jumped a couple times pretty substantially. And just last week, they got up to like 3.75. Now they're back down to 3.625. And it's expected that rates are probably going to rise about 1%.
Okay.
Over the course of 2022. And people might think, oh, with interest rates going down, there's going to be less buyer demand and it's going to turn into a cold market. That's, a lot of people would maybe make that assumption. If you're thinking of that, though, the one thing you're missing is the supply is so low that even if buyer demand got cut by like 25% or something like that from last year due to interest rates rising, less buying power for buyers, the prices aren't going down anytime soon, because in order for prices to go down, you would need you'd either need an almost impossible amount of inventory to hit the market, or you'd need a crazy drop off in buyer demand.
Okay, so if you're trying to time the market, basically you might spend more time in the market.
Yeah, waiting. So
right.
I've got a story about two buyers that I'm working with. And we'll call the first guy, I can't use their real names.
Okay.
So we'll call him Jim, and we'll call the second person Amy.
Okay.
So I met both of these buyers back in late 2016. Amy bought her home in early 2017. And it was right around the $220,000 price point.
Okay.
Jim would be kind of hot and cold. He could never fully commit to a house. Even if it had all of his needs and wants back then, he'd find a reason, not to buy it.
Okay.
And, then I wouldn't hear from him for 3 months. And then we'd go and he'd call me and we'd go looking at houses again. And this has continued on for 5 years now.
Okay.
Right. So And here's the thing that Jim keeps noticing is that the type of houses we were looking at in 2017, his price range hasn't changed.
Right.
The type of houses he was looking at in 2017 are no longer available in his price range.
Sure.
He wanted some, similar price range to Amy. He wanted something with a 2-stall garage that was pretty move-in ready. That's exactly what Amy got back in early 2017. Now that's impossible at 220. There's houses that are hitting the market that are move-in ready with single-stall garages that are selling for 250.
Yep.
The houses that are even 2230 that have 2-stall garages are completely outdated and need major cosmetic updating.
Right.
So he's slowly seen the market creep up on him, where if he would have gotten in back in 2017, he would have been able to get what he wants. Now he's if he's ever going to buy anything, he's going to end up having to sacrifice on a lot of his original needs and wants, just because the type of home that you get now in 2022 for $220,000 is a lot different from the type of house you could get in 2017 for $220,000. And this is interesting because Amy actually called me, and she's interested in selling her home this spring. So I, did a little bit of research on it, checked out the market on her home, and and they've made some improvements. So they bought it for like $220,000. They've put less than $10,000 into it total. I think they did a new patio and a new roof and nothing else really. It was pretty move-in ready when they bought it. It needed a new roof when they bought it. So just to put this in perspective, what both of those people, what their situations are, and compared to the whole market, from 2017 to now, the average sale price is up 11.5%, from $235,000 to $262,000. So the average sale price in those years went up $27,000. Okay. The median sale price is up 14%, from $208,000 to $237,000.
Wow.
And the median sale price is probably more indicative of how the whole market is, because it's not going to be skewed by any luxury sales. So I like to use the median sale price in these type of examples a little bit more than the average, because the average could be skewed by if a few luxury sales went through. So, Amy gained $40,000 in equity. Her house is now worth about close to $260,000. Okay. So she picked wisely when she picked her home, because her home has appreciated even more than the market. And it's not just because of the updates that she made, because a roof and a patio aren't super high return items.
Right.
They're
not $25,000 worth.
No. And so she probably, if the market would have stayed the same, she probably would have maybe gotten 70 or 80 cents back on the dollar for the updates that she made if she was lucky. So she also, since 2017, has paid down $18,000 on her loan. So if she sells this spring, she's going to recoup her down payment. And after commissions, after the improvements that she spent on, after all that kind of stuff, she's going to have like a $32,000 profit after she sells. And Jim, if he's been renting, a home, and we'll just say his payment's been similar to Amy's over these last 5 years, he's spent $78,000 in rent.
Wow.
So if Jim's trying to find the perfect house at the perfect time, it's never the right time, nothing's ever good enough. You can see how this, if that continues, he could still get in, and then he'll be in Amy's position 10 years down the road. And it's not, we've had kind of an unusual year. Every 5 to 7 years, you're going to have some hot years where the majority of the appreciation happens. Amy probably didn't experience that much appreciation until probably 2020. That's when the market probably went up by, 4 to 5% each of those years. But you got to hold on to it for the long term, because you're never going to be able to predict when those times where the fast appreciation is going to occur, because you don't know when those market circumstances are going to happen until they do happen. We couldn't have predicted all the things that have happened in the past 2 years. You couldn't predict the inventory shortage. You couldn't predict the interest rates dropping and driving buyer demand through the roof simultaneous with the super low inventory. Those are conditions that make prices go up a lot really fast.
So Jim and Amy both looking for a house 5 years ago. Amy, she goes through it. She buys the house. 5 years later, she's going to make over $30,000 on it.
Yeah.
5 years later, Jim is still not in a house. He's still renting. Now, they first came to you, realty expert John Brodeen, 5 years ago. You ever, as being a realty expert, I mean, do you ever just want to say to guys like Jim, I told you so?
No, I'm not going to do that.
I know, but
I'm not going to do that.
Do you ever think that, though? Like, jeepers, why didn't this guy listen to me?
The market kind of does that for me when we're now looking at a $220,000 house that's a disaster compared to the $220,000 houses that we looked at in 2017. And, you know, it's everybody's comfort level is different. Some
Sure.
people have a hard time getting off the fence and making a decision. And, you know, that's just the way it goes. But you know, it just shows you if you are in a position to be able to take that risk, you know, the benefits that can come from it because, you know, Amy took a little bit of a risk buying a home. It's safer to rent, not when you're talking about 5+ years, but
Sure.
5 years is usually it's a little better to buy, and especially over these past 5 years. Now that we're looking at it in hindsight, right? So. Yeah, and it's not too late for him.
No,
not at all.
And maybe I should rephrase that. Not you saying I told you so, but you think 5 years later, Jim is saying to himself or thinking to himself, I should have listened to John Brodeen.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. With a little grin on your face, maybe.
Yeah. You know, and if he wasn't comfortable at the time, I don't know his exact financial situation. So, I mean, the time might not have been right. The house is, you know, it could have been more on his end of things rather than the houses not being right. But yeah, if he thinks he's going to wait for the market to drop, you know, he's
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
I mean, the best you get with that over the past 15, 20 years in Grand Forks is the market really hasn't taken major dives. The worst it's been is maybe the average sale price gone down by a few $1,000s in 1 year, and then it you know, maybe stays flat for a few years. That's also, you know, not the best thing. If the market would have stayed flat, Amy probably would have broken even. She wouldn't have made a huge profit.
Sure.
And she might have, you know, if the market would have stayed completely flat, she might have been a little out of pocket considering she spent that money on the house. So, you know, that's the risk involved. But, and of course, these are not their real names. So I'd never give that kind of information out about my clients, but it's a worthwhile story if you're a buyer out there who's on the fence.
We got a text in saying, I closed on my house 1/4/2022, been waiting a year for prices to drop. I would have gotten my house 15% less had I just moved a year ago. The economy is too unpredictable to wait. And that's exactly what you're talking about, John.
Yep. And she closed the 22nd. So, or sorry, I didn't see if it was Matt.
I think it was.
She closed the 22nd. So the good news that she can be happy about is chances are she locked her interest rate in before they went up.
Sure.
Because, you know, a 1% increase in interest rates decreases your buying power by about 10 or 11%. So not the worst thing ever. Yeah, but it's true.
So, you know, you might not necessarily get what you want right off the bat, but if you are still in contact with these people after 5 years, that means that a realty expert like you, John Brodeen, you don't give up. You
Nope.
keep working with these clients until the deal is done.
Yep. When Jim's ready, we're ready. So
All right, Jim, there you go, man.
not his name.
All right. Yeah, I know. Well, we're gonna go with Jim.
I know, right? I know.
If somebody wants to get a hold of realty expert John Brodeen, how do they do that?
Check me out on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I post a lot of content, information for buyers and sellers about the local market and stuff going on. If you're ready to go and want to reach out to me directly, 701-213-5428. You can call or text me on that number.
All right, timing the market versus timing the market. Now, you just saw a text. You heard a couple of stories. You know what? Get a hold of John Brodeen, realty expert with Berkshire Hathaway. Maybe you won't run through these issues and have this problem because he's going to steer you the right way. Catch you again on Friday, right?
Yep.
All right, there you go. That's our Berkshire Hathaway bi-weekly podcast. Realty expert John Brodeen. He'll be back on Friday.